Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Alina Islam, and I'm a mining analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. I'm very pleased to introduce NV Gold to you today, an exploration stage company with a portfolio of gold projects in Nevada. For the webinar today, we have with us John Seaberg, CEO. John will provide an introduction to the company, including an overview of activities underway at its three priority projects, including Southwest Pipe. After the presentation, we'll take your questions live. Please send us your questions via the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can. Before we get started, though, I do need to mention the fine print. For NV Gold, there may be some forward looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the NV Gold corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for NV Gold specific disclosures. With that, I'll hand it over to you, John. Please take it away.
Thanks, Alina. Appreciate that very much. And the reference to the forward-looking information is very important. Before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to thank Alina and the entire Red Cloud team for hosting this webinar and give me an opportunity to give the market a brief update on NV Gold. Before getting into the presentation, just a little bit about myself. I'm the newest addition to the executive team at NV Gold. I joined as CEO mid of last year, and I saw a real opportunity despite the volatile market that we experienced at the end of last year. NV Gold has an exceptional portfolio of assets, a very experienced management team and board of directors, and I think is well positioned to increase its profile in the market. They're a bit of a news flow gap, I think, in beginning of 2022, and I aim to close that and have begun to close that in already in my tenure. We've covered the forward-looking information, so okay. Just a little highlight introduction here. The other opportunity I saw with the ability or the opportunity to become the CEO of NV Gold was there was a lot of assets being analyzed, and when you're a junior exploration company with a limited budget and a small team, you need to be more focused on your highest priority projects. So that's what I've done. I've focused the team on our top 3 properties, and the other properties in the portfolio will be put on the back burner, and we'll do whatever we need to do to maximize shareholder value with those assets that are not our highest priority targets. It's about a laser focus on our top 3, which is, as Alina mentioned, the Southwest Pipe, which I'll get to each one of these in the presentation, Slumber, and Triple T. We still have a very significant land package in Nevada, a world-class jurisdiction, the best in mining, if you believe the Fraser Institute. We recently announced an exploration target at Slumber of 450,000 ounces, which I'll touch on. And again, depending on capital and drill rig availability, we expect a very active news flow over the next 6 months. So if you go back to older presentations, this was a much busier slide. It had a lot more dots on the state of Nevada. And it's, again, about focus and cleaning up the portfolio and to be more efficient with our time and our capital. So this is just to show you a location of our top priority projects, Southwest Pipe, Slumber, and Triple T, relative to the major trends in Nevada. So I like this slide. It's more illustrative, but it also serves a purpose for management about capital allocation. This is how we get more disciplined in allocating time and money to our best projects. Again, this slide had a lot more properties in it until recently, and we will continue to optimize this portfolio. We also want to continue to look for new properties and to feed it in on the left of the slide, and then we do the work, we get permits if they move to the next stage. If they don't, then we will either drop the lease, drop the claim, look for opportunities with other mining companies that these might fit better in their portfolio through leases, farm outs, or JVs. But again, it's really about keeping the team focused on our best properties. Turning to the Southwest Pipe, this is what I think is our best property and our highest priority for a couple reasons. I'm going to advance to the next slide first. This is where Southwest Pipe is. It's in Elephant Country. It's right next to Pipeline Gold Mine and the Cortez Gold Mine, both owned by Nevada and very massive operations. We're less than 4 miles from Pipeline, hence the name Southwest Pipe. So very excited about this asset and where it's located. We had a small exploration program going on currently. The drill bit is turning actually right now as I speak. It's going to be a 1 to 2 hole RC program. This property deserves way more holes than that, but again, being limited on capital, we have to go slowly. The target is relatively deep versus Slumber and Triple T. And this is actually where the drill rig is sitting today, where that stake is. We're testing for a multi-million ounce Carlin type gold deposit. And again, being in close proximity to world-class projects, we like our chances. It's drilling, so you never know. But the start date, again, we started a week ago and expect the program or the targeted depth to be reached in 5 to 7 days if all things go well. And just keep your ears open and watch this space for results. We don't have any assay results back yet. Like I said, the drill rig is still in process. The drill hole is still in process, and we expect, depending on how backed up the assay labs are, we should have some assays by the end of the month. So very excited about this program. I won't get too technical with the audience, but the historic drilling at Southwest Pipe, if you can see the triangles on the right of this image on the right-hand side, those were done by several different mining companies back in the 80s. They did identify a small gold anomaly of 50,000 ounces, if memory serves. But it was because they were drilling the outcrop. What our analysis has done using geochem, geophysics, mercury vapor, and structural analysis, we think the target is actually under gravel cover, and that yellow star is where the drill rig is sitting today. So that's where we think the higher grade target is at depth. That was likely a feeder. The leakage from that system is what was drilled to the east of our target a couple of decades ago. So again, we like our chances and watch this space. Turning to Slumber, which is probably our next highest priority project. We have 29 drill holes already in here. It's a very different system. It's lower grade, bulk tonnage potential, heap leach material. It's all oxide. It's located strategically, again, near the Sleeper mine. If you don't know Sleeper, it was an old Newmont operation. Now Paramount Gold Nevada has it. There's still a resource of, I think, 4 million ounces, if memory serves. We're 19 miles roughly to the west of Sleeper and in close proximity to Florida Canyon. So because of its size, we think Slumber could be an excellent heap leach operation, good feeder material for another company. These are the 29 drill holes that were used to identify the 450,000 ounce exploration target. And this is next on the list. Again, drill rig availability and capital availability contingent. But we're excited about the potential of Slumber, given it has the potential to have significant scale. And then Triple T is probably third on our list as things stand right now. We recently permitted 10 RC holes. These are shallower holes testing for higher grade oxide material. Again, what we've experienced in historical drilling has told us is this is all oxide, and very different than Slumber. We think it has the potential for higher grade material. We have rock chip samples of approaching 12 grams per ton. Again, on surface, it's open along strike and at depth. It'll be a relatively quick exploration program, given the shallow nature of these RC holes, and it's all permitted. Turning to a quick summary, I'm not going to read through each one of these. They're just summarizing the slides that I already spoke to. But one thing that's important is these are all 100% owned by NV Gold. There's no JVs on these properties, and they are fully permitted and drill ready. And you can see the scope of the work here with each one of these exploration programs. So first Southwest Pipe, then Slumber, then Triple T. We're excited about each of these opportunities and hope to have that news flow coming shortly. One of the other assets that we have in our portfolio that I wanted to touch on, if you remember the pipeline slide, we like to look for opportunities to put new projects in the pipeline on the left and work our way through them. Back in 2016, NV Gold acquired Red Star, and Red Star had previously acquired a significant database owned by AngloGold Ashanti. NV Gold has that data. It's in a warehouse in Reno. We partnered with Goldspot to do a data library project. That's what we call it, if you will. Essentially digitizing all of that data and then using Goldspot's artificial intelligence system generated 31 new targets. Okay, we don't own these yet. We haven't analyzed these fully because we have a lot on our plate right now, but it's a very valuable database that's digitized that makes that analysis very efficient. We will get to this data and this analysis in due course, and hopefully add some new projects to that pipeline. Just touching a bit on the capital structure, we recently announced the closure of a small raise, and that now has generated an outstanding shares of roughly 89 million. I think relative to our peers, that's a fairly modest amount, so we are pretty careful about how much we dilute our shareholders. It is a source of capital, obviously, so it has to go up eventually, but we think that's a fairly low share count relative to some other exploration companies. We have a cash position, again, as of February, of roughly 490,000 Canadian. We've obviously chewed through some of that, and we're working on the next quarterly results as we speak. We have, I think, a very supportive and strong shareholder base. Crescat Capital is our largest institutional shareholder, roughly 15%. And then management with our chairman owning about 10%, and then US Global has a small 1%, and the rest is retail. Just wrapping this presentation up, I want to emphasize a reinvigorated management team with a laser focus on these highest priority projects. We don't want to be distracted with too many properties. It's great to advertise how many properties you have and then they're in Nevada, but when you're our size with our capital and our budget and our labor force, we have to be focused on the best ones, and that's what we're doing. It's a very disciplined capital allocation strategy. We have significant ownership by management, so we feel we're aligned with our shareholders and our investors, and we're looking to get news flow and marketing aggressively in the next 3 to 6 months. And with that, I want to thank everyone for their time and for Red Cloud to host this webinar and open it up for questions.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, John. That was a great presentation. So we'll now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just as a reminder for our participants, you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So, John, we do have a few questions.
Okay.
Let's start with Southwest Pipe. So, you mentioned, drilling's underway. You may complete one or two holes. When do you make that decision?
Sorry, on whether we go one or two holes.
Yeah.
It's really going to be contingent upon how deep the first hole needs to go. And what we don't want to do is cut the hole short and not hit the target. So, not to get into too much geology, on the good news side, we hit what we called some alteration at a shallower depth than what we had estimated. So that's a good sign. Again, we don't have any assays, so we don't know what's in that, but the rocks are looking attractive. Depending on how deep that first hole has to go, then we'll make a decision on whether we go to another one. Or if we are fortunate enough to raise some additional money, then I would like to do 2 or 5 additional holes. So it is contingent upon capital, and that capital will be chewed up the deeper we go in hole number 1 and what we find, right?
Right. So you'd mentioned that drilling will take another 5 to 7 days, if I heard that correctly.
That's estimated, correct?
And so once that's complete, when do you think assays will start coming back in?
We can ask for assays to get rushed. We use ALS in Nevada and out of Reno, and it just depends on how backed up they are. I mean, we are in the exploration season, if you will, in Nevada. So it just depends on how backed up they are. But I'm expecting 3 to 4 weeks once we submit them.
Okay. Okay. So moving on to Slumber, how did that 450,000 target come about?
So it's a good question. This is a relatively new analysis that is allowed under 43101. We used an independent QP, if you will, and provided them all of our data, and then they ran it through their analysis, leapfrog interpretation, and generated that target. If you look at that press release, it's a very wide range, that 450,000 ounces with respective grades, and it's all range bound. It's not a resource. It's not inferred. It's pre-inferred, if you will, but it's a relative indication based on his analysis of our data of what the potential could be. And what I would point out is that 450,000 ounces was just on one portion of our land package, because that's where the highest density of drilling was done. And if we think our analysis or our theory is correct, if you overlay that envelope on the rest of our land, it suggests that it could be 1.5 to 2 million ounces. We're not advertising that because we haven't done that work. We don't have enough drill holes in the other part of our land package. But that's how that 450,000 ounce exploration target was identified. And we have to be careful and call it an exploration target, because it is not a resource, and I don't want any of the listeners thinking that it's a resource at this time. It needs more drilling.
Okay, understood. So Triple T, do you know which areas you're targeting with RC drilling?
I don't know the exact locations of those holes yet. They are identified because they have been approved. We submitted the NOIs to the BLM, and that was approved. We announced that a couple months ago. The exact location of those holes, I'm not sure. I'm not focused on Triple T right now. It's a smaller target located near, again, Florida Canyon and the Rochester mine. So I like the strategic location of Triple T and the high grade near surface rock chip samples that are at surface, if you will, that we've already got the results from. And it has some good 2009 drill results that you saw in the slide deck. It used to be called Fisher Canyon. Now it's Triple T. I'm not really sure why the name changed. That was pre-me. But it is, again, oxide material and higher grade potential than some of our other properties.
Okay. So moving on to your portfolio optimization, you mentioned that there were some other properties that have now been divested.
Yes. we've made the decision to not renew some leases
Okay.
that are coming due this month in early July. And then there are several claims that we own that are up for renewal at the end of August. That's the due date every year. And we will not renew all of those claims. We will drop some of those claims as well.
So, what are your plans for your project that's in Switzerland?
That's a great question. I've never been there. Well, at least to that property. It's a high grade opportunity. It's not on our focus list right now. We have enough higher priority projects in Nevada. And again, it's about the amount of people we have and the amount of money we have to work on it. It is a high grade opportunity. I don't have a complete visibility on the permitting process in Switzerland. It's got very low holding costs for us. So I guess you could say it has optionality. We'll likely divest of that at some point, but it's not a distraction for us. It may be something I even remove from the website because it's just not something we're focused on.
Okay, all right. So last question here, John. Could you provide a summary of your upcoming catalysts in the next 6 months?
Sure. A lot of it is going to be on Southwest Pipe. Obviously, the drill results are the key catalyst for that. And if we can move drill rigs over to Slumber and follow up on some of those higher grade opportunities to the north of our land package, that's another opportunity. There's also a small ranch in our Slumber property that we don't own that we're looking to consolidate. And we're having those conversations right now with the owner. And so that could be another catalyst. We'd like to tie that up. Those are the main ones. And if we get permits on additional holes at Southwest Pipe and have the resources to advance those, the drilling on additional holes there, that would also be another key catalyst.
Okay, well, lots to look forward to. That's it for the Q&A portion of the webinar. John, thanks a lot for taking time to host this webinar.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lynn. I appreciate it. It's an exciting time for NV Gold. I think that, we got a little sleepy in the market before I got on board, and we're looking to change that, get more visible, get the story out more. I have a lot of energy, and I'm excited about the opportunities that we're focused on. And so watch this space and look for additional news flow going forward.
Yeah, sounds great. And just as a reminder for our audience, our next webinar will feature Brunswick exploration, and that's Tuesday, June 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.